All right, I'll just do the intro on the streaming portion, and we'll get started here in 1 second. And all right, guys, welcome to Leo Roundtable, leoroundtable.com. We've got Chuck Springer with us, and it's going to be a good show today. We got 6 minutes till we go live satellite radio. You can see the countdown timer behind me. That's the MVS clock, we call it. So, but thanks for being on the show, guys. I see we got Sergeant George on from, looks like, I know he's in Hayward, California, and but so he's on talking sports. And I'm going to go in and make sure that the feeds are set up all the way across the board. Next, we're going to head over to Rumble, where we've got, typically a lot of characters. So we've got MVS and Chili, and this is Butter, who has the channel on Rumble that we get all of our videos from. So glad to see that we're up and running okay on, on Rumble, at least anyhow. Now, that brings us back to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is always a temperamental one. So let's see what we have on LinkedIn, if we're live yet over there. And I'm looking, and I'm not showing us live yet, but I'll hold out, and hopefully LinkedIn will end up kicking in. So we'll just keep waiting for them to get. We just went live on LinkedIn. Love it. It's a sign, Chuck. Are you still there, Chuck?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, keep that mic unmuted. So welcome to the show, everybody, and especially our LinkedIn users. We appreciate having you guys. If you have any questions or anything you want us to talk about, feel free to type it in on the stream, and we'll be watching for those comments. So how's your week, Chuck? Chuck?
Yeah, pretty steady. I haven't been able to get out and go fishing here recently, but other than that, I'm living the dream.
I think okay. I hope there's not an audio issue, because it's taking you about 5 seconds to answer when we're talking. So hopefully we'll get that fixed. But we can't do anything about it on a live show. So any big plans for the weekend coming up?
Just chatting with you here for the next hour or so. Other than that, I got to fix some fences here around the property, and my wife's got some to-do chores for me before some of her guests arrive here in about a week and a half.
That sounds familiar. All right. Well, excellent. So for me,
is the audio thing picking up at all?
No, it takes you 5 seconds to answer me when I say something. So at least. And your video is starting to hang up a little bit too. So I think there's an internet connection on, but anyhow, we're live. I don't even want to talk about it, because people aren't going to, we can't do diagnosis on live radio. So, and we're going to go live radio, but we're live on podcast right now. So we got 3.5 minutes. So thanks for being with us, guys. I'm going to watch for the questions, but a lot of stuff's happened this week. We had the State of the Union address with President Donald Trump. And that was, depending on which side of the bridge you're on, that was pretty spectacular, I thought. The hook question he asked the Dems that were there was, please stand up if you think that our job is essentially to protect to protect the American people over the illegal aliens. And I don't think one person stood up, Chuck.
Yeah, that's kind of disappointing. And in fact, they did the same thing last year to him, especially when he was acknowledging some of the folks that they had brought in that, are essentially heroes. But they're not standing for that, not standing for them. That's really childish to me.
Yeah, totally agree. So anyhow, so there's fallout from that, and there will continue to be fallout for a while. I'm waiting for us to go to war with Iran, and I hope that it's not just they're talking about a controlled or limited strike. I hope it's an all-out devastating blow. I hate to keep going back and bomb them, and then they start creating new missile silos and nuclear technology and all this stuff. I just wish we would just pound them in the freaking sand and just get it over with. So hopefully it won't be that limited. Hopefully they'll really do the trick, and hopefully help the people do a regime change, which is what I think they need. So.
Yeah, I think for the regime change, though, that's really going to have to be generated internally.
That's why I said go in there and help the people do a regime change. If we went in there and armed everybody with rifles and ammo, they could probably do it themselves. So well,
kind of like in Afghanistan when the Soviets were there.
Yeah. I just say, these prolonged wars, they don't leave a good taste in people's mouths, and people are just so anti, prolonged war. So hopefully, and I think Trump has the same mentality. He wants it over almost immediately. We have Christino that just logged in on Facebook saying it doesn't matter what the president says, they will never stand or be on his side. You're absolutely right. All right, so we've got about another 53 seconds before we go satellite. And good afternoon, Bruce Dwyer on Facebook. So we got a couple people. Yep, thank God it's Friday. Totally agree. We love our Fridays here. So of course Chuck's got a Friday every day. He's living in southern Florida. Yeah. So what are you gonna what do you do? So.
Well, you could do it as well, Chip. You're just self-induced.
We got MVS. Here's how bad it could be. We got MVS in Northwest Colorado. It's 29 degrees. 29 degrees. Can you imagine that? Yeah. And Chuck and I are in Florida right now. But that's the way we roll. Guys, we're 14 seconds out from going live radio. I'm going to go in and start the music, and it's Chuck's favorite tune. And we will see you on the other side. But going live, here we go. All right, guys, welcome to Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. We're a group of law enforcement professionals that talk about today's news and issues, but we do it from a law enforcement perspective. Let me introduce Lieutenant Chuck Springer to you, retired lieutenant from LAPD. So thanks for being back on the show, Chuck. It's been a while, so Chuck is back. And we also want to give a shout out to our sponsors. You know, we have our title sponsor, Gulls at Gulls.com, also Compliant Technologies, and they are our satellite sponsor. Thanks to them, we're on satellite radio and have been since last May. Gunlearn.com, we have MyMedicare.life and Safeguard Recruiting, our streaming sponsor. Thanks to them, we're streaming to over 1 million followers right now on social media during the live show. And we have twobells.com that built a new online store at leoroundtable.com. Go there to check out the cool gear we have, like the shirt I'm wearing, or the coffee mugs. If you guys want some of this cool gear, it's pretty spectacular. We don't charge anything extra for it. We're just trying to get our stuff out there. So go to leoroundtable.com, upper right corner of the screen. You'll see our online store. Go there and get some cool gear. And also a shout out to Brian Burns for the Tampa Free Press at TampaFA.com, Ray Dieter at FormerLawman.com, and Travis Chase with LawOfficer.com. Thanks to all those entities for helping make this show happen. And now, guys, we got a good roundup. We're just trying to make you guys among the smartest people in the room when it comes to the news and what's going on in the country around us as it relates to law enforcement. So our first topic is going to be the courts are split on the role the IRS can play in immigration enforcement and in data sharing. I thought that was a pretty interesting article. We've also got FBI fires at least 10 employees tied to the Trump Mar-a-Lago raid. We had an inkling that was in the works from another news source days ago. And then K9 Asher, I love K9 bite videos. K9 Ashner, and that's in Washington State, nabs a suspect on foot after being pursued by Thurston County deputies. We've got Colorado Springs police release body cam of officers shooting a woman who tried to take a police car. We got a female cop trying to drag her out, and I think it was the female cop's car. And then we got a male officer on the other side of the closed window, the passenger side, that ends up having to take out the female going for the gun inside. We got Indiana man, a former F-35 instructor, arrested for allegedly training Chinese military pilots. Are you kidding me? And we got a man hiding in a trash can. He had run from the police, and it was an attempted traffic stop, and then he bails. They lose him. And as the can's going in the dumpster, getting ready to, the guy bails out. Then we got Zoran Mandani. He is downplaying NYPD ambush. He downplays it as a snowball fight. We had officers that actually got injured and hurt. We're going to talk about that. Suspect fatally shot by Coolidge police officers when he charges at them with a machete. And then there's a video of fallen officers. So it's fallen, and that is FALON. It's a police department. Those officers fatally shot a knife-only suspect after 2 people had already been stabbed. So a lot going on. So, Chuck, if you're ready, let's go ahead and get the party started here. We've got a little over 8 minutes. DailySignal.com is the source. Court split on the role the IRS can play in immigration enforcement and data sharing. I thought it was pretty ingenious, but there are privacy laws, so we're gonna cover this. But we've got conflicting information here. from the courts. So in the span of 2 days, courts have issued somewhat conflicting rulings, according to our article, about what the Internal Revenue Service can do to assist the Trump administration in immigration enforcement. Now, on Thursday, U.S. District Judge Colleen Cotterly for the District of Columbia, so D.C., she determined that almost 43. Now, this shouldn't surprise you because D.C. is not favorable. They hate Trump, right? And they're not favorable about law enforcement. So she ruled that I guess that almost 43,000 addresses in the IRS database were shared with ICE basically last August, and that they were provided without confirmation of a valid address. And 2 days earlier, in a separate case, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District Court of Columbia, so for D.C., they gave a green light for the IRS to share information about illegal aliens with the Department of Homeland Security. So which is it? The D.C. court upheld a lower court decision rejecting a temporary injunction on the IRS actions until the case is completed. The court also said the plaintiffs that they are unlikely to proceed on the merits of the claims. And that's what courts, if they're going to deny something, they're going to make sure that it's more than likely not going to succeed anyhow through the process. So, and then finally, we have some statements at the bottom. Both cases that we're talking about, they focus on IRS data sharing. The D.C. Circuit Court level, so not the appellate court, but the Circuit Court, they ruled that a federal statute allows for actual sharing of data with other federal agencies. And by contrast, the lower district court, their ruling focused on whether the IRS followed proper procedures in actually sharing the data. So that's the difference. I'm glad the Trump team seems that they can still be doing it. And here's a final quote from Tricia McLaughlin. She's with the Department of Homeland Security. She's a spokesperson, and she said that information sharing across agencies is essential to identify who is in our country, including violent criminals, determine what public safety and terror threats may exist so that we can neutralize them and scrub these individuals from voter rolls and identify what public benefits these aliens are using at taxpayer expense. I thought that was a brilliant phrase. Chuck, curious what your thoughts are on this and your commentary.
Yeah, I think that last statement you made kind of wraps the whole thing up. I can't imagine that the IRS has never assisted federal agencies in the past conducting whatever investigations they're conducting. I think the article also noted that they're only releasing addresses. They're not releasing taxpayer, related refund information, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, this is kind of a goofy one on the ruling. I'm not an attorney, so this is certainly not my area of expertise, but it seems very sensible to me that the IRS should easily and willingly be able to assist a federal partner conducting any investigation.
Yeah, it just makes you wonder who's even challenging this. We're getting rid of these rapists and armed robbers and murderers, and we got people fighting the fact that the IRS is trying to help get these people out of our country. Are you kidding me? So, yeah, just a waste of our time.
Yeah, probably, a lot of anti-Trump stuff is really what it boils down to.
Agreed. So we got more people logging in. Bruce Dwyer and Christine Neville Purchase and some other people. So thanks for watching the show, guys. We appreciate it. Of course, we still have Rumble and our LinkedIn audience as well. So if you're ready, Chuck, we've got I dropped main topic number 2 because I'm going to hold that on for Dan O'Kelly. But let's go to update number 1. The Tampa Free Press at TampaFE.com. The FBI fires at least 10 employees that are tied to the Trump Mar-a-Lago raid. So the FBI terminated at least 10 on Wednesday. These guys were previously assigned to the probe in the President Trump's handling of classified materials. Now, remember, Trump just took office over a year ago, and then he brought, Kash Patel on, after that. Sources say that confirmed that multiple media outlets that all affected employees had played roles in the investigation that was led by special counsel Jack Smith. So they're somewhat tainted. The firings follow a Reuters report detailing claims that the FBI had obtained phone records belonging to the current FBI director Kash Patel and White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. The subpoenas for the records were reportedly issued while both individuals were still private citizens. So a little close to home now. Kash is in charge, and he's letting 10 guys go. I personally have no issue with that. The Reuters report, it cited allegations from Patel who claimed that the agency used flimsy pretexts to gather the data and intentionally hide the process within the restricted files to bypass standard oversight procedures. So not only did they use flimsy, what he's calling flimsy pretext, but they also hid what they were doing, and they didn't want other people to find out about it, which is really the tell for me. The investigation in question was one of 2 federal probes managed by special counsel Jack Smith involving the president. And while one inquiry examined efforts to contest the 2020 election results, this specific group of agents that were let go, they were working on a case focused on the retention of sensitive documents at Mar-a-Lago and subsequent interactions with the Justice Department. And finally, the FBI Agents Association, they're not happy. They're blasting this, saying that the FBI AA, which is their agency, condemns today's unlawful termination of FBI special agents, which, like other firings by Director Patel, violates the due process rights of those who risk their lives to protect our country. They go on to say these actions weaken the Bureau by stripping away critical expertise and destabilizing the workforce, undermining trust in leadership, and jeopardizing the Bureau's ability to meet its recruitment goals, and ultimately putting the nation at a greater risk. Do you agree, Chuck Springer?
Well, I'm not as familiar with this topic as you are. I'd like to have a little bit more information, know exactly what it is these guys were doing other than generalized statements. Can you be a little bit more specific about exactly what pretexts they were using to justify or rationale subpoenas? If they did what they did, then I have no problem with them being let go, as long as the FBI, who I'm not familiar with their disciplinary process, as long as they're following their guidelines and not violating their civil rights as a federal employee. I don't know if they're kind of considered more at will, or if they're like your traditional police department that you and I work for, where there's, a very methodical process to go through to terminate somebody. You can't just walk up to them and say you're fired. If you're doing sneaky stuff like that, which, it seems like they were doing, then the chips got to fall where the chips got to fall,
Yeah, there's something to be said for guys that don't blindly follow, the lead. Now, look, I'm walking a tight rope here, right? Because we've got a group of people saying don't obey, unlawful orders. Well, as law enforcement officers, most guys are going to go through their career and they're never going to have to deal with anything like that. So I know that I suspect, number one, that these 10 guys let go, they have probably been on the porch, for over the last year when Cash and people got in the office. They probably on the porch, which means they lost their security clearance and they have not been getting pay. But they can't go on and get another job, or else they end up getting terminated. But now, a year later, they finally let these guys go. They can get on with their lives and stuff. I think that they were looking for someone to say, hey, look, I'm not going to be part of this. And I'm just simply not going to do it, or at least voice some concern. Even if you felt like you had to do that, go on the record saying, I don't agree with this. I don't think that we have the PC for a warrant. We're doing this, trying to hide what we're doing, etc. So we'll touch on this when we come back from our first commercial break. Stick with us, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, it's time to talk about our title sponsor, Galls at Galls.com. And one thing that we as cops do, we love to buy gear. We're very good at it. When you throw the online option, it's like limitless, right? So I want to remind everybody about really is what most important here. It's about supporting the companies that actually support law enforcement. And I don't know if a company does that better than Galls at Galls.com. Even their motto, as you can see in the banner behind me, is proud to serve those who serve, which of course they do in spectacular fashion. Not only that, they walk the talk by supporting dozens of focused organizations like this radio show. So when you're looking for gear, please support our title sponsor by going to Galls at Galls.com. And they've got a radio code. It's Radio 15. Type in Radio 15 next time you're at Galls.com in order to get 15% off your next order. It works on most items, and it's a great opportunity. Again, Radio 15. And hey, they have gift cards. Hook up your family, friends, and loved ones for the new Galls gift card, and they will be your new best friends. You can do all this at Galls.com, where they have pretty much everything but guns and ammo. Galls.com. All right, we got 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. I think we're off to a good start, Chuck. So, and I'm just going to take these things in order, unless you want to take anything out of that we were discussing. So,
whatever works for you, Chip.
All right, beautiful. And we do have a canine bite video coming up too, which I can't wait to cover. So let me just say, we still have that glove challenge going, and technically the contest ends at midnight tomorrow, which will be the 28th of February. So just to refresh people's memory about that contest, during SHOT Show in January, myself and Major Travis Yates from the Tulsa Police Department went up to SHOT Show, and we got gloved by Dan Dela Cruz, who works for Compliant Technologies. They have that glove product. And the goal was, the contest was, Travis and I were trying to hold out the longest without complying. And it was filmed and timed. So whoever lasts the longest wins a free pair of gloves. And then whoever donates to the Wounded Blue in their name the most amount of money to the winner, they get a free pair of gloves. So let's just say that for sake of argument, Travis ended up lasting and resisting longer than I did, and that he won the contest. If he ends up winning, he'll get a free pair of gloves that I'm sure he'll probably donate to the Tulsa Police Department where he used to work. And the person that donates to the Wounded Blue in Travis's name the most amount of money, they will also win a pair of gloves that they can donate to an agency of their choice, because they can't be owned by individuals. But it's a great opportunity, very cool, and we're planning on announcing the winner on Monday. So I've already hopefully we'll be able to get all that information in timely fashion and announce that winner. But yeah, the contest ends Saturday midnight. If you haven't done it yet, go to thewoundedblue.org, go to the event section where you can place that vote. We're going back to radio, guys. Here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBluck, and I'm your host. We're joined by former Lieutenant Chuck Springer from LAPD, and don't hold that against him. We just got done talking about the FBI letting 10 guys go that had worked on the Mar-a-Lago raid, and we have our suspicions. We don't have a ton of information, but I know that the union is sticking up for the people. I respect that. I used to work with the union in my last, 6 years for the police department. But hopefully they get it. Things that have been happening lately, and I mean since Trump got back in office, in my opinion, Chuck, and you tell me if you feel differently, but I think the FBI has gotten its name back. The FBI had a horrible reputation under Biden, and now we're continuing to find more and more information about them being weaponized by the Biden administration. I mean, they're going after, mothers and, parents and just all these, and under the guise of terrorism, just some horrible stuff that's been going on. And now they're being allowed to do what they do. The purging of individuals who have that woke mentality. I have no problem with that. I kind of wish that, with our missing persons investigation that's going over in Tucson, that they would have let the FBI handle everything from the get-go, because this is what they're really, really good at. But what do you think, Chuck? Do you think it's going to really hurt the agency?
I don't think that it's going to hurt the agency, and I generally agree with you that I think they're getting that reputation back. My only hope is that they don't swing the pendulum too far the other way and encroach and start doing the shenanigans that were going on.
Agreed.
Under the Biden administration. You got to get back into your objective roots and, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, and do things led by the law. So as long as they do that, I think we're good.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's the difference between us and them. It's like, we're not going to get even and one up you, right? We're going to start issuing subpoenas and doing, investigations on you and stuff. I mean, even when Obama was talking about aliens and stuff, Trump declassified a lot of stuff to make sure that he didn't get in the grease, even though he wasn't happy about it, from what I read. So, I don't want it tit for tat. We need to show that we need to look. I don't mind pushing the boundaries a little bit, but we gotta do the right thing. So, and we still have not had anybody thrown in jail, for all the stuff that happened that we've been finding out about. So I'm waiting for the handcuffs to start being used.
Yeah, we got to have some of that happen. Otherwise, what's to lead most of us to believe that what they were claiming actually didn't occur. So
consequences.
Start rolling some people up, but
Agreed.
Do it the right way. Do it the right way.
Well, guys, we have another one that has a video component, rumble.com, our favorite law enforcement video channel called This Is Butter. We have a canine, Asher, nabs a suspect on foot after being pursued by Thurston County deputies. So we're in Washington State, Thurston County. This happened on February the 16th. So It is a little after 8 o'clock in the evening. K9 Asher and his handler, a deputy, they try to do a traffic stop. And after, it's for speeding, 96 and 35 zone. So the guy was cooking along pretty good. The driver refused to pull over. Now there's a pursuit in the Olympia area. The driver pulls into a known drug compound, and then he takes off on foot. So our handler releases Asher, K9 Asher, and this dog captures the suspect. I'm going to go to my notes in a minute, but the K9, he kept the suspect apprehended until backup got there to put handcuffs on the bad guy. During this, the suspect kicked the K9. I was watching the video trying to see where that actually happened, and the K9 re-engaged after he released when being kicked. The suspect was treated at a hospital and booked for attempting to elude DUI, possession of drug paraphernalia. Did not charge him with harming a police dog. They don't think that the kick was intentional, so that was their rationale for doing that. Going to my show notes, I know that my advice is start watching about 2 minutes and 45 seconds into it. At the end of the pursuit, the K9's going freaking crazy in the car. You know how worked up they get, Chuck. They're like screaming, at the top of his lungs. He just wants to get a bat. This is what they live for. And so he knows there's a good chance he's getting ready to get released. Sure enough, guy bails on foot. They release the K9, and the K9 gets him. The guy bails at 2:48, and by the K9 officer's body cam starts at 2:51, and then by 3:04, the K9's biting the dude and he's screaming. But shortly, like 11 seconds later, let me think about that. About 18 seconds later, the guy's in handcuffs and dog's not biting him anymore. So everything happened pretty textbook, I thought. What do you think, Chuck?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty straightforward. I kind of enjoyed listening to the dog throughout the pursuit. He's getting more and more worked up as the pursuit goes on. And then obviously as the bail is about to happen, then the handler's really trying to pump him up. Get ready. But yeah, he popped out of the car. He warned the guy 2 or 3 times that he was going to get bit. And hey, make use of your available tools. You're working rural areas and you're an L car. I have no problem with sending the dog after this guy. And, he didn't, I don't think he overreacted on the suspect. The dog did what he was supposed to do. The handler came in, controlled the handler. You're never going to have a perfect use of force, but I thought it was pretty clean myself.
Yeah. I love the fact you can tell that this handler, he loves his dog. This just the encouragement, the reassuring, good boy, really. And the dog was pretty good about obeying the handler. Sometimes we see the dogs not wanting to release. Very, very, very easy. Consider that typical in law enforcement, or any help guide the dog to make sure that he was targeting the right person, because he was talking to him during the chase to make sure that there was another cop there too, but making sure that he went after the wrong guy and didn't just start running in circles or whatever. So it was this is one of the best handler videos I've seen from a handler perspective. Encouraging the dog, like you said, the dog's getting worked up, guiding the dog before he does the bite, and then talking to the dog, giving commands to the bad guy, telling him what to do. And that's so important. When you're applying force, you've always got to give commands to the bad guy on what to do to alleviate, the force, the pain, the pressure, whatever. This handler did it. And then as soon as the guy complied, verbal commands to the dog, and then praising the dog afterward for what the dog did. I was, made me wish I was a canine.
Right. Yeah, it's a different setup. I worked a department where our handlers didn't work patrol. Our interaction with the dogs was almost exclusively, perimeter based.
We got to go to the commercial break, Chuck. Hold that thought. We'll be right back, guys. All right, guys, time to talk about Compliant Technologies at complianttechnologies.com. And they are committed to providing non-lethal solutions to help officers gain the upper hand safely and rapidly in a humane, low-optics manner, utilizing what they call their CD3, which stands for Conductor Distraction and De-Escalation Technology. Now, their flagship product, we all know by now, it's called the Glove. It's helped officers I'm going to say tens of thousands of times, but they've actually had over 250,000 deployments. And guess what? No injuries. no deaths. Amazing. And you heard that correctly. So they've actually achieved non-lethal status in an arena that predominantly can only offer less lethal results. When it comes to weapons retention, transition to a sidearm or conducted energy weapon, the Glove and CompliantTechnologies.com, they virtually eliminated weapons confusion. So stay ahead of the game with Compliant Technologies and the revolutionary CD3 that hundreds of agencies have already turned to nationwide. And friends, take it from me, when it comes to safety, this is one of the most common sense, hands-on solutions that's ever come along. Go to CompliantTechnologies.com today and tell them that Chip sent you. All right, we got 4 minutes, Chuck, before we come back to the radio portion of the show. And we are moving right along. And just like that, half the show is already whizzed by. Crazy, huh?
Yep. It's like life, Chip. Once you get older,
yeah,
it just starts going by like that.
So we got Paul Humphrey Bogart, and he's watching the show from, looks like, Facebook. And we got Spoot Dog back saying that federal, he think you were talking about being able to fire them. He says, I believe they are for cause, not at will. And yeah, we got Christine Neville Purchase saying hello from Canada. Christine, hello from Canada. And good to see our Canadian sister online here. And good deal. And I'm just kind of checking out some of the some of the commentary anyhow. Frank Yardley as well. Now Frank Yardley is not a fan, I don't think, of Trump, because he says Trump has politicized every department of the government. He's a wannabe king. So I see Frank saying that. But Frank puts no facts to support his argument. And that's typical. And I will offer you an opportunity, Frank Yardley, on Facebook to back up what you say, because you're not going to be able to give me one example where that's happened. And remember, there's a difference between politicizing a department, and there is a difference between holding people accountable. And although Chuck was saying, and I agree, that we don't want to repeat that on our side, even though we could do that. And then every time you get somebody in office, every 4 years, it goes back and forth. That's not what we want. We want the right thing to happen. Cops, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chuck, cops see things in black and white. We see things in right and wrong. It's with great clarity. I mean, I suspect not many times in your life, in your career, Chuck, you looked at a situation and you really weren't sure what to do, or whether it was right or wrong, or black and white. We have. I mean, do you agree? I mean, as cops, don't we usually see things in black and white?
Yeah, I mean, most guys and gals become cops because they want to see the right thing happen. And see the bad guy go to jail and see good people be protected. So yeah, we pretty much totaled that line. And of course, there's a bad apple here or there, right? It's bound to happen. But by and large, I think most members of law enforcement really just they're you're going to write the report and you're going to put the facts in it, and the facts lead you down whatever road you're going to go, or whatever road needs to be driven. So yeah, I think you're spot on with that, Chip.
There's a human component to everything. So you brought up about mistakes being made. You're absolutely right. But it's more of a rarity. It's not a systemic problem. There's a human component. We're gonna make mistakes. But I do believe the system for the most part works. We have cops that are still getting caught doing wrong things. Most of the time it's maybe a training issue. Maybe it's an administrative issue. On rare occasions, and I'm saying rare, and this is supported by the stats, it might be a criminal issue. And guess what? We go after them. We'll prosecute them. We'll yank their certifications so they can't, serve anywhere else in that law enforcement capacity and stuff. So when I see people like Frank Yardley on Facebook typing in stuff that Trump has politicized every department, Trump went to jail and was charged and convicted because of a weaponized system for writing a check, and in the memo section you're putting down the wrong thing. And I don't even think that he did it. I think that his accountant ended up doing it, but or telling them what to do. So it doesn't, that argument, unless you want to put something on here that I'll read out that supports it. I suspect that you're listening to very liberal and woke sources for your information. You're not vetting it and validating it. So that said, going back to satellite radio, here we go. All right, guys, welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip the Block, and I'm your host. We're joined by Lieutenant Chuck Springer, retired from LAPD. We've been talking about a story with a video component where we had a K9 chase down a bad guy, and he got a little bite in there. But it was kind of Chuck and I were both impressed with what we saw, both the K9 and the handler. And this is Washington State, so arguably, liberal county and stuff. This is where we have Sheriff Mark Kreider from Walla Walla County over there in Washington State as well. So unless Chuck has final words on this one, we'll move on to the next one. Chuck, go ahead.
No, I was just going to mention that, our department where I worked, we didn't have handlers working patrol. Our interaction with our dogs and our handlers were almost exclusively during perimeter searches. So when I see these videos, it's a great visual for me when I see, patrol officer be able to use that tool effectively and do the heavy lift instead of, having to fight guys on the ground, et cetera, et cetera. So.
All right. I love it. Yeah, I couldn't imagine not having a working dog, like available, like on patrol. It's huge, and I'm assuming we're still doing that in Tampa, but there are some pretty radical differences between East Coast and West Coast policing, in all honesty, since that I've noticed on the show since I've had, the recent influx of guys from the West Coast. I know that Frank Yardley on Facebook that was talking about how Trump has politicized every department of the government and he's a wannabe king. He has never accepted my challenge yet to put down substantiating information from a credible source, Frank. He has not done that yet. So anyhow, if you're ready, we've got another story, Chuck, that has a video component. So this next one, rumble.com, again, our favorite law enforcement video channel. This is better. Colorado Springs police released body cam of officer shooting a woman who tried to take a police car. Now, look, I couldn't help but laugh at the end because I'm thinking in my mind how this is playing out. You've got we start off with a female officer, but we're in Colorado Springs, Colorado. So this is up where our listener MVS is probably not too far away. And they released a video of an officer-involved shooting that occurred on January the 31st. So the agency said that officers, plural, responded to a report of a disturbance between two people that could involve a firearm around 10 o'clock p.m. in the evening, and it was a few blocks from the Citadel Mall. Now, when they get to the scene, officers tried to talk with a woman they say that was involved in the disturbance, and she was not carrying a rifle, as there were some initial reports saying that she did, but she was carrying a knife. And the agency said the woman, she runs from the officers, and after orders to stop, and she drops the knife as officers are chasing her. Now, she hops in an unlocked, marked police cruiser, and I believe it was the female's cruiser because the female goes, "Oh, no, you don't," or something like that, during the chase. So, guys, so important, secure the freaking cruisers. Please don't make us keep covering stories where people are getting in your cruisers, getting access to your weapons, or driving down the road with your AR-15, So anyhow, sure enough, that this chick gets in the car. So now our female's got the door open, and she's grabbing the other female that's in her car. And remember, the girl already dropped the knife, so she's technically unarmed, but she's in her car. And she's grabbing her by the feet, trying to pull her out, but the female inside the car is like latched on like a leech, right? And we got a male counterpart officer on the other side of the car looking through the passenger window at what's going on. Well, the female that's in the car, our bad girl, she ends up going for a gun that's in the cockpit of that car, and that's when our officer on the other side of that window lights her up. So, and I'm just going to read, just going from this article here. They'd asked her to exit. She refused. The passenger side officer sees her reaching for a firearm inside the patrol car, and that he fires 3 times, hits her twice. It's about maybe better than average, I guess. You got 2 out of 3 at least. She was removed from the vehicle, taken into custody, and she got medical care. So she did not die. And that was pretty close quarter shooting. Officers said they found a knife the woman was carrying during the pursuit at the scene. She's identified as 30-year-old Michaela Pasilas, and she was taken to the hospital with serious but non-life-threatening injuries, and she's been booked for felony menacing in jail. So, Chuck Springer, your thoughts on this one?
Well, you took the words out of my mouth with respect to keeping the car secure. Now, to be fair, the video doesn't show the approach to this call at all. So, maybe she drove up on something and had to get out real quick. I don't know. I'm just playing the what if game, but the lesson is still there. Regardless, do your best to secure your car. Now, what I found interesting was they said that she was shot when she was reaching for a firearm in the car. All right. My guess is there's not a loose firearm in that car. If there is, something's really, really wrong. More than likely, it's a secured rifle or shotgun. And unless she managed to trip the lock mechanism on that, I think you're skirting your justification for lethal force. It really suspiciously leaves out specific information related to that aspect of this incident. So I'm a little curious as to exactly how that evolved. But I just wanted to make that distinction. I think you would be on thin ice if you shoot somebody that's trying to physically rip a rifle out of a vault situation, if you will. But again, I couldn't see it, and I don't know exactly how this went down.
Yeah, I wish we had some more information on that. That would be interesting. Saying, because you're right, if the weapon was secured, don't get me wrong. If someone's stealing my cruiser and I've got secured weapons in it, AR, shotgun, whatever, dude, they're dead. They're not driving away with my car with all that armory and stuff. But I wish there was some more information. But I have to believe that he had a reasonable expectation that she could have access to that weapon and do some harm. But you're right. It would. Right. That's a good point. Good point.
Yeah, you'll just see how he explains his actions. That's going to be a very important factor, I think, in this incident.
No doubt. So moving along, Tampa Free Press at TampaFP.com, we have an Indiana man and a former F-35 instructor arrested for allegedly training Chinese military pilots. I see you shaking your head, Chuck. This is Chuck. Were you Coast Guard?
I wasn't in the military, Chip.
No?
I wasn't in the military.
Okay, me either. For some reason, I was thinking that you were, but so a 65-year-old former U.S. Air Force officer, Gerald Eddie Brown Jr., taken into custody in Jeffersonville, Indiana. He's facing federal charges for allegedly providing unauthorized defense services to the Chinese military. Man, that is just... you're not going to be too popular in the United States if you're helping out the Chinese. Known by the call sign Runner, Brown is accused of conspiring to train pilots for the People's Liberation Army Air Force in violation of the Arms Export Control Act. Now, he had to have known there was something that he can't do this, but authorities state that our guy Brown, a U.S. citizen with decades of experience flying elite aircraft, he did not obtain the mandatory licenses from the State Department that are necessary in order to give the specialized military instruction to a foreign power. Assistant Attorney General for National Security, John Eisenberg, he noted that the Air Force invested heavily in Brown, trained him as an elite fighter pilot, and trusted him with national defense and security. And Eisenberg emphasized that providing training for a foreign military is illegal without specific authorization, stating that the National Security Division intends to use all available tools to protect the U.S. military advantages. And according to the criminal complaint, our guy Brown, he was in the Air Force for over 24 years. He spent time in commanding units responsible for nuclear weapons delivery and instructing on platforms like the F-15 Eagle and F-35 Lightning II. More recently, he worked as a contract simulator instructor for U.S. defense contractors. So this guy was privy to a lot of valuable information. The FBI's Counterintelligence and Espionage Division and Assistant Director Roman Lazowski is in charge of that. He alleged that this guy, Brown, betrayed his country by training Chinese pilots to fight against the very forces that he once served. And court documents suggest that this all started back in August of 23 when Brown negotiated his contract through a co-conspirator, and he dealt with Stephen Su Bin, a Chinese national previously convicted in 2016 for hacking U.S. defense contractors to steal sensitive data. So when he was dealing with this dude, just what is that, like years earlier, that same guy, it looks like it was about 7 years earlier, was convicted for hacking U.S. defense contractors to steal sensitive data. Wow. And investigators claim that Brown, our pilot, his application for the role trying to do this, it was listed as instructor fighter pilot. And when he's communicating with the co-conspirators, he allegedly expressed excitement about the opportunity to fly and instruct again, comparing the Chinese facility to where he would be working at to the equivalent of the U.S. Air Force's weapons school. And the complaint alleges that he traveled to China in December of 2023. And on his first day, he spent 3 hours answering questions about U.S. Air Force before presenting a briefing about potential background, to the PLAFF. And it goes on this, he goes on to talk about how he remained in China. That was December. He was in China till February of 2026. And it talks about another case that's eerily similar to, which I was unaware of or forgotten about. I'll be talking about that in a second. So we're coming up on our third commercial break, guys. Stick with us. We'll be right back. All right, guys. We're talking about GunLearn at gunlearn.com. And as law enforcement officers, we deal with guns and ammo every day, but it's what we don't know about them that gets us in the trouble. Injuries, civil lawsuits, accidental discharges, misidentifications, lost prosecutions, and disciplinary issues. But gunlearn.com, they have your back. You can quickly become extremely firearm knowledgeable by simply learning 14 training modules from the convenience of your home or your office, or by attending a live seminar at gunlearn.com. You can also become a safe, accurate, and competent certified firearm specialist like our very own Captain Brett Bartlett and also attorney Ken Afianco. Now, the course has had huge success in raising the bar of firearm knowledge, and GunLearn has been a trusted source since way back in 2011 by gun manufacturers, federal agencies, forensic organizations, and police departments nationwide. Now, if you have your own agency, the founder, Dan O'Kelly, has got a deal for you. You can actually host a seminar for absolutely no cost. It's an amazing opportunity. You can go to gunlearn.com to get more information. And again, that website, gunlearn.com. 2 minutes before we come back to the radio portion of the show. All right, Chuck, am I going too fast for you?
No, you're right on spot. Doing perfect.
All right, we'll get to this last one. There's apparently another case that was similar to this one that I'll just be briefly covering, and then we'll cover this. But you know that during the Winter Olympics that we just had, what was that female American that had a Chinese, I guess not resume, but Chinese history? She went and got hired for I think it was a multi-million-dollar contract to leave us and go represent China in the Olympics. That skier, I can't remember. Was it Lou?
Yeah, I don't remember her name, but I know what you're talking about.
I think it may have been Lou, L-U. But I mean, how devastating is that? But good, can you imagine her coming back into the United States and people recognizing her? I would suspect that she would have some issues.
Yeah. She might, but there's a lot of people in this country. There's a lot of places to go, and there's probably a lot of people that agree with her, or don't disagree with what she did. Put it that way.
Yeah, well, hopefully she'll find hopefully she'll find a place
she'll fit in California and New York, no problem.
They probably would love her, wouldn't they? So yeah. Spook Dog thinks her name was Goo. I think it might be Sue, S as in Sam U, but I'm not certain. But I'm sure someone will tell us here. So, but yeah, that was pretty embarrassing. So and almost unforgivable as far as I'm concerned, especially with China. Who's after everything. I have friends who have businesses and they've been knocked off by China, and it's just horrible. Well, guys, we got less than 10 seconds. Didn't she? Going back to I think she did, but not gold, I believe. All right, here we go. Back to satellite. All right, guys, and welcome back. Leo Roundtable at leoroundtable.com, the law enforcement talk show. My name is Chip DeBlock, and I'm your host. We're joined by retired Lieutenant Chuck Springer from LAPD. We've been talking about an Indiana guy, and he's a former F-35 instructor pilot, and he's arrested for allegedly training Chinese military pilots. Wow. And it doesn't say that he's arrested because he planned to do it or he was conspiring to. He friggin' did it. So, and going back, to the story here on where we left off, we talked about how this really started in August of 2023, and he's working with a co-conspirator who, like 6 or 7 years earlier, got convicted for hacking the U.S. defense contractors to steal sensitive data. But this is who our pilot's working with. and he's trying to become an instructor fighter pilot. He goes to China in December of 2023, and so it starts in August with the conspiracy. He goes to China in December, just months later, and it talks about he's given training for 3 hours right away. He remained in China until February of 2026, and so wow, doing the math here, he gets there in August. Well, he conspires in August of 2023, goes there December of 2023, and he doesn't even come back to the U.S. until February of 2026. Wow, he was there for years. And the case mirrors the 2017 charges against a former Marine pilot, Daniel Edmund Dugan, which I did not remember. This guy was accused of teaching Chinese pilots carrier-based takeoff and landing techniques. Executive Director Lee M. Russ of the Air Force Office of Special Investigations stated that these activities represented a significant threat to national security. This arrest follows a 2024 joint bulletin from the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance. That's where us, the U.S., and UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, warning that China continues to target Western military personnel to bolster their capabilities. And obviously, they're reaching out and trying to get our pilots to give up the information on our own country. Chuck Springer.
Yeah, I think the article does a pretty good job laying out exactly what this guy did wrong. I can't imagine how any sensible person would think it would be okay to do this. To me, it's the functional equivalence of going to the Soviet Union in the 80s and doing the same thing. They must have offered this guy, a boatload of money to do this. Here's my other concern, though, actually significant concern. As you mentioned, he was over there for what, 2 to 3 years?
2.5.
Our intelligence agencies had no idea that this was going on. That's where I see one huge gaping hole that needs to be addressed, or at least answered. Maybe they did, and they had ulterior motives. Who knows? But the article doesn't mention it. But that's quite a bit of time to be over there doing what you're doing. And not have your government know about it.
Yeah, he could, I'm sure he did a lot of damage over that, 2.5-year period. That's just scary. Yeah. I can only imagine.
Yeah. We'd be interested to see what his defense is. I don't think he's going to have much of one, but.
Well, he's lucky that he wasn't still over there and not coming back. And the U.S. didn't go, send someone over there to reach out and touch him, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah. Moving along, guys, we've got our, I want to cover this track. We got a little over 5 minutes, but I want to try. We haven't gotten to the trash can one yet. I got to cover that, Chuck. It's pretty interesting. Rumble.com. Again, This is Butters, the name of the channel. Man hiding in a trash can runs on foot after being dumped in the dumpster. Or I'm sorry, before being dumped in the dumpster. I was thinking to myself, gee, you didn't actually get dumped, but we're in Hoover Heights, Ohio. So police, this is where Jeff lives. Jeff, from the show. Police in Hoover Heights, Ohio, arrested a man who allegedly fled a traffic stop. He took refuge in a trash can on Monday, February the 23rd. So it's one of these big plastic trash cans, and not the old metal cans anymore. And he's inside of it. And so I guess during the traffic stop, police, he fled on foot, and they lost sight of this guy. And so we've got a cruiser with a dash cam sitting in front of a garbage truck, sanitation truck, getting ready. It's got a worker outside that's loading the contents of the cans, throwing them in, and it's compacting everything. And so all this is going on that we can watch the dash cam, but the cop's sitting there, and they've got a perimeter set up because they're still trying to catch this bad guy. So the sanitation worker goes up, the lid's off the top of the plastic trash can, and I guess he looks inside and he sees this dude, sees movement, and he jumps back. He looks at the cruiser and he points. He said, "Hey, look at the freaking can." And next thing you know, our cruiser puts it in drive, drives up. I don't know if I would have done that, because if the dude's got a freaking gun, but anyhow, he gets closer. And as soon as he does, the dude sticks his head up out of the trash can, sees the cruiser coming up on him, and he jumps out and bails. And now we got a foot pursuit. So our cop bails out of his car, and now there's a foot chase. You don't really get the chance to see the chase. They do say that the bad guy was taken into custody without injury to anyone involved. So at least they got him. But I thought it was pretty comical. What do you think, Chuck?
Yeah, I got some chuckles out of that for sure. I mean, garbage cans are actually a very common place for suspects to hide, because a lot of places that they can't get into a house, that's the only form of cover they can find. But boy, this just wasn't this guy's day. It's trash collection day, and the truck's right there, and he gets outed, right away, or not right away. I don't know how long it took him, but yeah, I got some a little bit of laugh out of that one.
Yeah.
I don't know if they said what he was originally or what he was ended up being booked for. I don't recall if I read that far along on the article or not, but it'd just be interested to know why he ran.
Yeah, it was just
Maybe he just didn't have a driver's license.
Yeah. Traffic stop's all I know, or traffic infraction, I guess. But it was for a traffic stop that he fled. So, but yeah, interesting stuff. So I hope it was worth it for him. We got a little less than 3 minutes, and I know that we've got. Let's go and talk about Mamdani. RVM News, which is RedVoiceMediaNews.com. Zoran Mamdani again downplays NYPD ambush as a snowball fight, and the police unions are pushing back against that. So, yeah, our new socialist mayor, that I have no sympathy for New Yorkers voting in the office. He's once again facing criticism after characterizing an event where multiple New York City Police Department officers were struck with snow and ice as a snowball fight that got out of hand. But we have injuries, and it's to the cops. As Fox News reported, speaking to reporters on Wednesday, Mamdani was asked about the viral videos that are showing officers being pelted while responding to a call inside Washington Square Park. And he credited NYPD for its role in the blizzard deflecting. And then he says, talking about the confrontation, saying that he saw a snowball fight that got out of hand. That's what he saw. And we've actually heard stories about there being rocks and snow on the outside of the rock, but it's being thrown. They're really throwing rocks disguised as snowballs. And it marks the second consecutive day that the mayor over there, not my mayor, but in New York, minimized the event. And on Tuesday, he said the videos appeared to show kids having a snowball fight. And the mayor also posted the idea about the suspects facing assault charges. However, we have the NYPD commissioner, Jessica Tisch. She feels differently. And she said they're investigating the matter. She's got detectives on it. And they're going to go after these guys for criminal charges. It's not up to the mayor now. Maybe she's risking her job because she's appointed by the mayor. But these officers sustained injuries to their head, neck, and face. And that bothers me. But what do you think, Chuck? The commissioner's in a tight spot or not?
Well, she might be in a tight spot, but at some point you have to make an honest decision, and that is an honest decision. This is not a fight, and fight involves active participation by all involved. And the mayor makes it sound like, a couple of cops were walking through the playground and came across a group of 8-year-olds and joined them in a snowball fight. From the video, I didn't see officers throwing snowballs at anybody. Number one. Number two, I didn't see any kids there. I saw a bunch of adults, or at least, right, teenagers, minimum, 18, 19, whatever. So, yeah, what's next? We're going to start letting these guys spit on cops and just saying, I had a judge tell me once that, it's our job to get spit on. It's part of the job.
Are you serious? Really?
I was testifying. Yeah, I'm serious. Yeah. It was, what am I going to say? That I'm sitting on the stand and the judge says that, I'm not going to, tell him to, whatever off. But wow, yeah, it's interesting.
Well, guys, we're out of time. Thanks so much to Chuck Springer for coming back and being on today's show. And we appreciate it, Chuck. And I just want to remind everybody about, our show. We are Monday through Friday during the lunch hour. That's 12 to 1 o'clock Eastern time. So thanks for watching the show. Don't forget, final opportunity to take part of the glove challenge and to try to win a free pair of the gloves valued at about its $2,000 value. Go to thewoundedblue.org/events in order to do that. And guys, please support our sponsors. Again, our sponsors are Gauls.com, CompliantTechnologies.com, Gunlearn.com, MyMedicare.life, Safeguard Recruiting, and TwoBells.com. We'll see you guys back Monday, 12 noon Eastern. And we're going to keep it going for about another little over a minute to keep the satellite company happy. But I hope you have a good weekend, Chuck. I hope the weather's good.
Yeah, unless happens to me. Every day is a good day.
All right.
So, and I've looked into some speakeasies, but they're all in West Palm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, really?
I just haven't managed. And there's only like 3 of them. There's a couple of them that are labeled as speakeasies, but looking from the description, I wouldn't really consider them a speakeasy. It looks like it's just attached to the back of a restaurant or something like that. Well, I'll get around to it somewhere along the line. I'm a pretty busy guy, so I don't have a lot of time to get out to West Palm Beach.
We got Spook Dog saying that the female, the China skier, Eileen Gu. So I was wrong. It was GU, not SU, but Gu. And then Joey Barlow was talking about another story. So they made an arrest yesterday about the incident. A 37-year-old kid charged with burglary a few days before. So I guess that's talking about the snowball ball fight. So good deal. So, well, it's been another exciting day. We're going to let the streamers go. Don't forget, we're live Monday again all week long, starting at 12 noon. That is Eastern time. So we'll look for you guys then. Thanks, guys. MBS and everybody over on Rumble, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. We appreciate it. We appreciate your support. And we'll see you guys back Monday, 12 noon Eastern.